First of all, just a little about me. My name is Mark Beck. I used to work at Aristocrat. I was there for 10 years. Aristocrat's a physical manufacturer of slot cabinets. I was there in Sydney, then Vegas, and then San Francisco when we bought Product Madness, which is the social casino division of Aristocrat. When we kind of made this acquisition, I thought, I had no idea about social casino, and this was 4.5 years, and it's amazing to see from then into what the industry has become now is kind of an amazing success story. And then about a year ago, I started working with the Merca team. So their major games here, Scatter Slots, Slots Error, Infinity Slots, and Scatter Poker. And I think it's really important that anyone that, I guess, does anything they're passionate about is to have a passion in what you're doing. So I certainly love to gamble, and I think this is really, really important that if you're making features, if you're creating ads, whatever you're doing for this space, it's about delighting this core gambler, and you have to be passionate about it. So an example I like to use is a lot of people think, okay, when a user comes in, they install a game, we should give them a huge win straight away. This is a good experience, it's going to make their experience better, and they will then start paying more down the funnel. I personally kind of can't stand this type of approach. There are certain subtleties here to kind of bring a user into the funnel, but if you read any app page or app review page, what you'll see is these players already think the machines cheat you. So actually making it true, actually changing the math for their experience is, in my opinion, exactly the opposite to what they're looking for. They're actually looking to be entertained while they lose and then winning against their odds. So for me, this is a good example of really not understanding the kind of core slot player behavior. So here's our games. I'm super excited to play some slot machines. So I guess our core focus is these high production quality of slot machines. And we like to think of these as very innovative in the social casino space. So the game that you saw, it's a quest-based mechanic. So you have to actually achieve specific missions to progress through, which is different to most slot games where the bigger you bet, the more you win, the more you progress through the game. So what we have is these three major titles, and we think about them in kind of different slot players. People think, slot machine's a slot machine. This is not really our focus. So scatter slots, you'll see, is in one style versus, infinity slots, which is in an entirely different style. So the idea for us is to create experiences specific for that player. So everything from the basic slot machine, the art, the events, the ads, everything is designed for that segment of users, rather than trying to create a product that appeals to all slot players. The slot player in Australia is very different to the slot player in the US, and even in the US, the Las Vegas Strip player is very different to Las Vegas locals. So you need to really understand what drives that player and then design a product specifically around it. As I said, scatter slots, this innovative quest mechanic-based addition with the darker, more gothic style graphics, actually kind of created this audience, which is a younger male skew. Most social casino games are elderly female. So, we have gone specifically after this segment and then have able to scale it. I think scatter slots is around about the 10th largest social casino app in the market today. So this is from the Eilers report. You can see everyone kind of knows the market is growing. I think $4.5 billion is a lot of money. I think what makes it attractive to a lot of the advertisers here is a lot of this growth is driven from paid acquisition, not from organic or kind of viral hits. So you have to be paying for advertising, and the large value of high lifetime values of slot users means that the social casino market really is a huge advertising opportunity. You can see the blue to orange. What this is social casino actually started on Facebook Canvas, facebook.com, and you can see the transition, like most games, into mobile. So here's, I guess, my view of the key players in the market. And I'll start with the first one. So these are the manufacturers. These are the guys that create, the physical cabinets, the Aristocrats, IGTs, Konamis, WMSs, etc. These are creating the boxes that then they'll take that same content and they'll move that into a mobile experience. So the Buffalo example, this is a great game from Aristocrat. You can play that inside of Heart of Vegas. So the same title on the floor is now into your social casino game. Really, the competitive advantage for these guys is twofold. Number one, they've got a back catalogue of hundreds of social casino titles, so you can choose the best performing after launching them, putting them into market, seeing what's successful. So they're cherry picking the best titles. The second thing is that they're developing slot content for the land-based environment, for real money gaming in the UK, as well as for social casino. So, a company like Aristocrat would spend over $100 million in development costs a year, and you're trying to compete with that development budget to design slots. So this is their core competitive advantage. The second section, the blue one, is casino operators. Sorry, this is licensed brand holders. So as an example, Wheel of Fortune, it has a different licensing agreement, one that's physically on a slot floor and one that's in social casino. So what the companies like GSN, Sony, had recognised is that license is different, so they can actually license separately to these two companies. So the company that brings you Wheel of Fortune for the casino is different than the company that brings you Wheel of Fortune for your social casino. And this is really similar to the manufacturers section, which is they're using proven titles that work in land-based and they're bringing them to social casino. So this is kind of their core competitive advantage, in my opinion. The third yellow is physical operators, so the people who run the actual casino. They have a database of users that they can advertise to. They have their physical casino that they can try to drive people to their mobile properties. In the case of Play Studios, they have a loyalty system that drives people back into the property. And I think these dotted lines are kind of interesting because you remember the manufacturers are actually selling product, as in the slot machines, to the operators. So there's this natural connection between the top two. And you can see that connection as well with, let's say, MGM and Konami. This relationship is my Konami slots, as an example. And then really the bottom section, which doesn't have any pictures, is the hardest place to be because you don't have any of those core competitive advantages. You have to create product that's just better than the rest of what's in the market. So you need to be more efficient, you need to be more innovative, or you can have early market share. One of the things with social casino is these users have incredibly long lifetime values and it's driven by really long retention numbers. So it's very difficult to move early players from one social casino to another. So if you look, this is again from the report, you can see that each of the colours is the same as of the segments that we just talked about. So Playtika, I put in purple because it's the outlier, it's this huge, they did a great job, great execution, one of the first to market. And you see they're in purple, but then it's really manufacturer, casino IP, manufacturer. It's a lot of this revenue driven from the same group of customers before you get to the green, which are these private developers. So this is kind of what's currently shaping the market. This is the same view. This is the top 20 slots in the US on iOS, and you can see this same trend kind of applies. You've got the Playtika in purple, you've got these manufacturers. This is what's really driving the social casino market. A lot of people think like slot machine, what's the deal? You just make some real spin and we'll work on kind of other things that are going to excite the player. And really this is a mistake because really the player is coming to play these slot machines and it's very important that you spend a lot of time and energy on them. So the math, the sounds, the combination between these two things and getting this right exactly for that player is very difficult to do. And in the land-based world, a 10% hit rate, meaning you release 10 games and one of them is a success, would be a fantastic job. So there's no real science to this. I mean, there is some science, but it is a very difficult concept to make great slot machines. And you can do it a number of ways, and you've seen it in the market. You can license the content, you can try to build it yourself. And the most difficult is obviously learning to create this slot development studio internally. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say I was going to create a slot for the Asian player, and I'm going to make it a koi-themed game, or fish. You need to have a feeling for how all of these key areas actually interact with the graphics itself, right? So the steppers is a mechanical reel, the lines, the volatility. So volatility is I start at $1, I'm going to end at 90 cents. Do I have a smooth ride down or do I have a really bumpy ride down? Hit rate is how many wins that we're giving. So a lot of thought and time goes into not only, my koi, is it going to be a low volatility machine, but let's say the frog inside of this koi game. This has to be representative of, is it more powerful or more valuable than that koi? And that should be very obvious to the slot player. So it's very, I guess, difficult to make slots, and people often take it for granted that it's an easy thing to do. This example, let's say an Asian-themed game, most Asian players like high volatility. This is a general assumption that most people work under. So this game is unlikely to succeed in the market. Now, I'll say two things. For every kind of slot rule, there's always many exceptions, as well as there's lots of examples of just taking the exact same math and then replacing it with separate images, and of course that's now a big success, right? So this is a very difficult thing to do, and it's kind of a delicate balance. So what our view is look, we want to take what real-world slots, in my opinion, is the kind of benchmarks of what you play in the physical casino, and then try to take it to the next level, both in like production quality in terms of the graphics and art style that we have in, as well as just innovative math mechanics that the market hasn't seen yet. So this is really our focus. I often get asked kind of if you wanted to start a social casino, what would be the things that I would start with, and this is it. I would first start on buying users at the lowest possible cost, highest possible quality. I would check that versus my organic and paid and see, okay, I have a decent stream of traffic. You then need to get these users playing. So day one retention number, meaning the numbers of people that come after the install, is very, very important, because if they're not coming back, ultimately your retention numbers are never going to sustain a high LTV, and then that's going to make paid acquisition very difficult. And then you need to try to convert them and then convert them again. And the only way to keep them is to make sure that you kind of delight them in terms of having a really good experience as you try to convert them. And there's a natural trade-off between retention and conversion usually. How would I do it? I would take my analytics platform at the bottom, I would make sure I connect it to a segmentation engine, and then actually start pushing messages to those users. Price points, emails, push notifications. These are the keys to improving retention and improving conversion. So I guess what's next for us? This is our new game, which is called Scatter Poker. I think actually it launched on Android yesterday or today. So this actually is a similar theme to Scatter Slots, so it's the same art style in terms of the decks, and it has a similar kind of achievement-based mechanism inside of the game. So win a hand with a flush, win a hand with a straight, these kind of examples. The daily bonus is actually a video poker that you collect. So this is our new game, which is just released on Android, as I said. And we just announced a partnership with National Geographic, which is just live on Facebook only in Australia. And this is one of the screenshots from the game. We're super excited about this game. Animals, history, these are great IP holders, and National Geographic has been a really good partner getting this product to market. So we're super excited about this one. Still in very early stages of development, so coming soon. And that's it. If you have any questions or have any ideas, please reach out to me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.